engineer and a human resource manager by qualification with over a decade of experience in consulting, training, recruiting, and engagement of students at bachelor's and master's level. She left her corporate job in IT to pursue a career in training and facilitating students to have them better placed in jobs. She will share her insights and experiences on the meaning and importance of soft skills in the life of a student and a job aspirant, especially in the post-COVID decade. So without further ado, I invite her to take the session forward.
Thank you so much, Vrishti. Hello, good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing really well during the lockdown, keeping safe and enjoying your family time. So the session for today is titled Soft Skills. So we'll be dealing with what soft skills are, why they are important, why do we need to know about them, and how can we improve our expertise in soft skills. Now, before we go, I would like to ask you a question. I'll just actually present a scenario. Now, this happened around 4 to 5 days back. It's a personal story. Someone came to our door and asked for help because he was a daily wage worker and he wanted some help from us. Now, without inquiring, we assumed that the help he required would be monetary. So we offered him some money, but which he politely denied. He told us not to offer money, but offer him something to eat, since it's really difficult for him to purchase food during these times. Now, I'll tell you why I shared this story. Another scenario is, let's say a man who's extremely hungry and he asks you that he's very, very hungry and you are a very kind person, you really want to help that person. So you go, you cook a very, very nice meal for him and put in a lot of your time, your effort, you're an extremely good cook, and you offer him a very well prepared meal. But alas, he refuses to eat the meal. What could be the reason? I mean, the meal is very well cooked, it is delicious, it is prepared with a lot of love and effort, and the man, on the top of all, is extremely hungry. So why in such a condition would a person refuse to eat? The answer, my friends, lies here. Now the food here, it's not the problem that it's not edible. The food was very well prepared, the food was cooked very well, but did we pause, did we bother to know or ask the person what was his requirement? What kind of a food he would have liked? Maybe the food I prepared was using milk and he was a vegan. Maybe the food that I prepared was non-vegetarian because according to me, chicken is supposed to be the favorite food for all the people. But I didn't bother to ask the person whether he was a vegetarian. Just like in the first story, I did not bother to ask the person what kind of a help that person needs. Now this, my friends, is exactly what is happening in the job scenario. This is something that we call as the skill gap. So in the skill gap, all of us, now most of us who are attending the session are students. We are all running after degrees and increasing our percentage, attending classes, enhancing our technical knowledge, and we're doing all of that stuff. But when we pass out of college and we get into the real world, what do we see? We see that we're not getting jobs. On the other hand, we read daily in the newspaper that India is a very young nation. India has the highest young population and employers are looking for people. There are lots of jobs available. So isn't this something which is contradictory? We as students are wanting to have a job. We are preparing our best to be capable of having a job. On the other hand, the employers are looking for young people who they can employ, but still we are not getting employed and they are not getting people whom they can employ. That is exactly the reason and the problem that we're going to address today. Now, the problem that we just addressed is unemployability. We all have heard of the term unemployment, which is the state of not having a job. Unemployability is the situation where you want to have a job, but you are unable or you are not employable because of lack of skills. You are not getting a job, not because you don't want to do a job or because there's an economic slowdown or there is no job vacancies, but because you do not have the required skill set. And the reason is the skill gap, the gap in the effort. So we go out of the college, we have a nice degree, we have 80, 90 percentage or whatsoever percentage we think will get us a good job, but still the employer is not able to hire us. The reason is skill gap. Now skills is the ability to do something well. If you're skilled at something, that means you can do that particular task very efficiently and very productively. Skills can be divided into two broad categories, that is hard skills and soft skills. In layman language, technical knowledge or expertise in a particular field are known as hard skills. And all the other things, all the other people skills, interpersonal skills, communication skills, behavioral skills, social skills, all these fall under the umbrella of the soft skills. Hard skills, as we all can see, they can be easily seen and noticed in people. All our degrees, all our certificates that we have collected throughout our college career, they are certifying our hard skills, right? We can say, okay, how much do I know organic chemistry? I have my report card to prove that, right? How good an engineer am I? I have my degree or the grade sheet to prove that. But soft skills, just like an iceberg, you know, the tip is visible and a lot of the iceberg is underneath the ocean, which is invisible, which is not visible to the naked eye. Similarly, soft skills, they cannot be measured, they are intangible, and they cannot be seen if I look at a person just like that. And they are nowhere mentioned in any of our degrees or certificates. Some example of hard skills, as we can see on the screen, can be how proficient you are in a particular language. For example, you've done B1 level in French, or you have done A1 level, C1 level. By knowing these particular certifications or the grades, one can easily assume how fluent you are in a particular language, right? Your degree or certificate state exactly the same. What typing speed you have, right? Can you operate a software or a machinery properly? All these are hard skills which you can easily explain, which can easily be noticed. Soft skills, on the other hand, they are like communication, flexibility, leadership, teamwork, and time management. Now, none of these skills are certified. You don't hold a certificate. They're not easily noticeable by any employer. Going further, just as we said, the hard skills can be quantifiable. They can be measured. They can be defined. But soft skills, it takes a lot of time for them to be seen in an individual, to be identified. So for getting a job, for keeping a job, and for being promoted in a job, soft skills are extremely essential. The first one is getting a job, that is placement, campus placement. Now we all think, okay, we are doing whatever degree that we are doing, BSc chemistry or engineering or MBA, and we have a degree, so we should be hired. We feel entitled to be hired. But friends, this is not true. It's sad, unfortunate, but it's really not true. To get a job, yes, we do need to have a degree in a particular field. If there's a pharmaceutical company coming in the campus for recruitment, they will not go hire someone who's doing hotel management, right? They would hire people who are doing chemistry. But in a class of 60, and in all the colleges in Punjab, all the people who are doing BSc chemistry, they have studied the same course. They have the same level of hard skills. If they ask you that, okay, to sit in our company's placement exam, you need to have above 60% marks. So all of you who are above 60% are same for them, right? But how then do they differentiate who they want to hire and who they don't want to hire? Hard skills are more or less the same for everyone. You have your degrees. And if hard skills were the only thing that was important for any employer, then they would really not come to the campus. They would ask your teachers to send the top 10 students of the class in terms of marks, and they would call them for a job straight away. Why get into the hassle of coming to a campus, traveling from a metro city to small cities, interviewing the person, and all those unnecessary things which cost a lot of time, effort, and money? The companies, after hard skills, they really want to hire you for your soft skills. Even if you lack a little bit of hard skills, you have 70% and a peer of yours has 80%. It is not compulsory, or it is not mandatory that he or she will be hired or will have an advantage over you. No. The company guys would hire for your character, because they feel that knowledge or hard skills can be trained. Any individual with 2 to 3 months training can be trained. in any particular skill, that is hard skill. But soft skills, they are your character, they are your behavior, they are your personality. And it is not easy to change a person's personality once he's crossed the age of 20 or something like that. They know this. And that is why they're ready to compromise on the technical front on your hard skills, but not on your soft skills. So till our MSc or BSc, whatever effort we are putting in is in one direction. As you can see from the graph, the left-hand side graph shows us that the time, effort, and money that we are spending right from our kindergarten to when we graduate from the university is all spent in gaining academic skills, technical skills, right? Very less focus of our time, effort, and money is spent in acquiring the life skills or soft skills. On the other hand, the recruiter's view, the employers, when you ask them like which are the qualities that you're looking when you're hiring for, their answer is entirely different. So they are hiring you for your soft skills, for your life skills, and very less focus is placed on the hard skills because, as I said, they feel they can easily train you on that. I'm sure you would have heard a lot of your seniors or your parents say that, you know, whatever we studied during our education or in our BSc or MSc, there's hardly anything we are actually using on the job. Most of the things that we are doing on a job, we learned after securing the job. So as you can see, out of these 5 strategies of recruitment, you know, 1 or more combinations are used by the employers depending on which field you are from. When it comes to CV, the characteristics that they are trying to judge in you with by using a CV are the following: your communication. How well do you write? How well are you able to express yourself? Expressing yourself, being self-aware. What are your strengths? What are your skill set? Right? What are your weaknesses? What should you put in a CV? For which company are you going for, and how should you customize your CV for that particular organization? All these skills are important. How well you've written your CV. Does it have a grammatical error? Is it structured properly? Is it presentable? It tells them how much of computer skills you have, you know, how much of attention to detail you pay, whether you're making some minor mistakes, typos or grammatical mistakes, which you're not correcting in your CV, and how articulate are you? How well can you express your thoughts? All these qualities are being judged by one single page that we submit when we are applying for a job. And most of us don't even realize that. Now, the second most common step that a lot of companies are employing these days while hiring people is group discussion. Some companies, they give you topic and form of a declamation or an extempore, but group discussion is by far the most important medium by which they are recruiting. Now, in group discussion, they are more or less judging a lot of soft skills. Some of them have been listed on your screen. These are all the things and questions that they're looking for while you were doing a GD. And I don't think a lot of us are putting a lot of thought into this. Next is personal interview. Now, trend is shifting from a typical HR or technical interview towards a behavioral interview, which gives them insights into your personality. The second step, as I said, was keeping the job or sustaining the job. All of you know the name, and a lot of you would have heard from different people that it's one of the best employers in the world. When you want to really sit for Google, or when Google hires some person, they have to be a very, very technical person, but that's not the case. And your screen exactly says why that is so. Focus on while hiring, while promotions, or while sustaining the candidates is for the soft skills. And the hard skills, that is STEM. Generally, it's an acronym for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So these qualities were very less sought, which is contrary to the mindset that we all might have had. Next is being successful on the job or getting promoted. Now, 85% job success comes from not having good hard skills or technical skills, but having exemplary soft skills. Now, that's not something that I'm just making it up. It's a Harvard University study, and you can all see for yourself. Now, we all saw that how important soft skills are, whether it is getting a job, you know, latching onto it, or getting ourselves in promotion in the job. Let's see what are the 5 or 6 most important soft skills in the market which are in demand that we have. And I think a lot of you might have this question at this point of time in your mind, that soft skills are important, yes, but they are not as important in technical jobs, but they're only important for the non-technical jobs. When we think of technical jobs, let's say two jobs that come to my mind is that of a teacher and a doctor, right? So I did a little bit of a Google and to find out what are the qualities of an effective teacher. This, my friends, is the answer that popped up on the top. This is mentioning that, a teacher needs to know their subject really well, and they need to have a PhD in their subject, or, they need to have a 90% score or a gold medalist in his or her subject. No. If you think about your favorite teacher, is it only on the basis of his or her hard skills or technical knowledge that he or she is capable of becoming your favorite teacher? I don't think so. Now, the second technical job that comes to mind is maybe of a doctor, right? I am not saying that a doctor need not have hard skills. Of course, a doctor needs to have extremely good hard technical. They need to be really good in their job. But what makes them a good doctor? Here's a list, and it's not the list that I have prepared. It's Google that says that. Apart from hard skills, everyone who's done MBBS or MD, maybe, they would know how to operate. They would know the basic medicines, what to be given during a cold or cough or a fever. But these are the qualities which will differentiate you from a normal doctor to being a favorite or a most popular doctor in your area. Now let us see what is the recruitment process for a teacher. How are we recruiting the teachers in our schools, in our universities, in our colleges? We have to take a UGC NET exam, right? Or we have to appear for an interview, and that's that, right? In most of the colleges, the interview is a very, very formal kind of a thing. It's a formality. So if you have cleared a particular written exam, if you have cleared your B.Ed, your M.Ed, or if you have cleared your UGC NET, you are liable to be a teacher, right? And they expect you to be a good teacher. But none of these exams are testing any of the soft skills which we just discussed. So what we are testing, what we are expecting out of a good teacher is different, and what we are preparing the teachers for and the criteria that we have for their selection or admission or employment is entirely different. And this is where the gap comes in, right? Now, the next question that comes to our mind is that if soft skills are so important and everyone seems to be knowing that, Google knows that, a lot of employers know that, then why is it that our colleges, our universities, or the higher education has not yet adopted a lot of them? Why are they not being emphasized upon when in our day-to-day teaching by most of our teachers, by most of the academicians? Now, there are two reasons for that. The first reason is that unfortunately our education system has not evolved. The role of technology is increasing. Now, when the role of technology is increasing, we do not need to memorize things, right? We have Google everywhere at all times in our hand to assist us. If now we need to shift from a knowledge-based system to a skill-based system, because we have machines, we have computers to do all the tasks that previously we were supposed to memorize or do. Any robot these days, with the help of artificial intelligence, can do the tasks which have a prescribed procedure. So one thing is, the change in the society that is happening is not being reflected in either the admission process of the colleges or in the evaluation process. While admission, we are still being admitted on the basis of our 12th percentage, which is only testing our hard skills. Now, the second reason why soft skills are not being adopted in higher education very properly is that they are not measurable. We are still struggling. We have a lot of ways coming up. We'll talk about them in future. But we have problems in measuring the competencies, the soft skills. Now, telling on a scale of 1 to 10 how kind a person is, or how what is the decision making capability of a person is not as simple as grading the person on a maths test, right? In the post-COVID era, which is also the era, you can call it the digital age, where a lot of online education would be happening and a lot of things would be done using technology. So what are the new trends? What changes can we expect when it comes to new trends in education in the post-COVID era? The trends in recruitment that we can expect in post-COVID era or in the digital age, is all of us, a lot of us would be required to take personality tests online before we get hired by an employer. Face-to-face interviews on Skype, Zoom, and other platforms. And the application tracking systems, there are going to be artificial intelligence systems which are going to track our applications, whether to a B school or whether to a PhD or a GRE or any university abroad. Also, they are going to be measuring our soft skills when we are doing a job. So for the employees, while they are promoting them, they're going to be having systems in place which are measuring you in terms of your personality, in terms of your soft skills, giving you marks and assessing you on that. And that's how you'll be promoted, right? So here is a comprehensive list of all the future skills that we will be desired to have if we are to be a good student or a better employee in any company. Let's just quickly have a glance. Most of these have been covered. That is verbal and written communication. We need to be original and creative, learn to collaborate, have tech savviness, know how to write a blog, create a website, how to edit a little bit. We need to be flexible to any change that might just crop up. The most important is willingness to learn, right? No one is going to force us to study. No one's going to have a timetable made for us to study. Everything is going to be available. We need to be having the willingness to learn and openness to learn. Also skills like, data analysis. So the skill now, it's not the dearth of data. It is not that you have to go to a library to see any data, but how much of a data is available to you, how you're able to analyze and process that data quickly and able to present it in a better way is the skill that they would be requiring. And above all, emotional intelligence and self-motivation. So I think this is a lot of information to process for now. And so we've seen what are soft skills, why they are important, what was their status in the past, what was the present like, and how we can expect the future be like, and the importance of soft skills in the future.
I'd like to say, ma'am, being very honest, it was really insightful, and we've had lots of learning with you here today. So thank you for sparing your time and being here with us.
Thank you so much, Vrishti. It was really a pleasure interacting with all of you and the way students were participating and asking questions. It was really delightful. Thank you so much for having me.